Joe, I want to come and take a look at a chart here that I'm showing inside my terminal because I'm trying to get to the why question of all of this. With a market cap of $145 billion, is the why, frankly, because they can, because the stock is so high?
Well, that's certainly part of it. Anytime the market wants to reward you with this kind of valuation, you take advantage of it. I do think it's important to remember that this company does need to expand capacity rapidly. Frankly, I think $3.5 billion is about the right number. So it makes sense to me.
But if they pulled in $1 billion in free cash flow last quarter, why go and sell equity for $2 billion in order to fund that CapEx? Do they not have the money?
They have the money, but remember, this company still is carrying a lot of debt, right? And so they could pay some of that down if they choose to do so. But at the most basic level, it's make hay when the sun shines, right? Certainly the company can use some additional resources. And if the market wants to hand them this $100 billion plus market cap, take advantage of it.
Joe, apart from paying down debt, what else could the money be used for? Can you see further expansion plans for Tesla?
Well, obviously, they're building in Germany right now. I do believe, even after some capacity is shifted out of Fremont, that they could use to expand further in the United States. There's also some additional investment to be made in vehicle autonomy. They've talked a lot about that. So believe me, the money will be spent. In particular, again, I believe that they need to expand in the U.S.
Let's talk a little more about that huge run-up in the stock price that we've seen. And I just have this chart here on my Bloomberg terminal which illustrates that, but also I wonder how much of it is due to the short sellers waving the white flag.
Well, that's certainly part of it. I couldn't comment specifically on that, but I do believe that what's become apparent over the last 6 months or so is that Tesla is just way ahead of the competition. It's remarkable to me when I look at what Audi's doing, Mercedes is doing, Ford's doing, that the product offerings are so weak. So some of it is just a recognition that the Tesla's way ahead when it comes to products.
Who are their competitors at this point? You mentioned a lot of other auto companies, but I'm not sure they're anywhere near in terms of the technology of Tesla.
That's correct. Oddly enough, one of the competitors that I think about the most is another startup, Rivian, which you may be familiar with, doing electric pickups. There's a Chinese company called Byton, believe it or not, which has a nice car. So I think the big surprise this year is not going to be what the big OEMs are doing, but what other startups are doing.
You talked a lot about some of the expansion plans, Berlin, Shanghai, Fremont. If they need to expand in the U.S., where is a reasonable location for them to build another factory?
Well, that's a fascinating question. They're out of room in Fremont, clearly. The footprint they have in Nevada is substantial. They're only making batteries and battery packs there right now, but there has periodically been some discussion of expanding operations there. So that seems to me to be the most logical place.
Yes, Elon Musk did tweet a few days ago 2 words, Texas at Giga. What are the chances of a plant in Texas?
Maybe. Certainly, that's not the first time I've heard that. I think the question is going to be where they can assemble effectively, because they do have a scalable cell and battery pack operation in Nevada. I don't think it would be fair to move that. So wherever they go, it's going to be where it makes sense to assemble vehicles. And to that extent, yeah, Texas does make sense.
Well, even amid all the coronavirus trouble in China at the moment, Tesla's restarting its production in Shanghai. So what does that tell you about the resiliency of its supply chain?
Well, I don't think we know yet, to be honest. My experience looking at supply chains over the years is that things like this generally are worse for the near term and not as bad for the long term as people expect. So I do believe that there's still another shoe to drop there, but if you're Tesla and you're thinking about the next year or two, you go ahead and restart.
You have a market perform. What needs to happen for you to change your call?
I'd like to see the stock drop. Look, to be honest, we are past what is defensible in terms of fundamental valuation. I've seen this before. It would not take much to reverse what has been a very sentiment-driven name. So awesome company. I think that I'm not willing to buy the stock here.